Hello, everybody. It's Friday. That means time for another topic of the week. First things first, last week's topics on your partner and your wargaming. Lots of great responses there. I was really happy to see how many people bring their partners, their significant others, along with them on their hobby journey. That was great. It was a lot of really good responses, and I thought it was awesome to see. In fact, I want to give a special shout out to Aussie Wargamer, who, if you're not following, you really should. You can find the link to his video in the description of last week's video, which, remember, that link is down below. And he recorded his with his wife. So that's super awesome. You get to actually see both their perspectives. It's a lot of fun. Highly recommend you check it out. Shout out to Aussie, who's been doing a ton of great responses for a while. So go watch that video. Check out his channel. He's a good dude. All right. But that brings us to this week's topic. And for this week's topic, I want to talk about soft scores. So this is something we originally talked about a long time ago. I think maybe the second topic of the week was about this. That was more than 3 years ago. This came up recently in a couple podcasts. It came up because of Throne of Skulls. Throne of Skulls is a rather interesting tournament in that it heavily weights soft scores, painting, sportsmanship, etc. So here's kind of my question about it. Soft scores means that tournaments that weigh soft scores heavier, the belief is that if you weight, highly, nicely painted armies, and you weight sportsmanship and or creativity in sort of list building, as opposed to, let's just call it hard edge list building, that you'll get different types of lists, right? If you set the construct different, you change the incentive structure, you'll get different types of lists. And I think Throne of Skulls did see that to some degree. A classic like smash 'em bash 'em battle force, or a skew that's sort of traditionally whack. I don't know how much those even exist anymore, really. Is not going to do well in that environment. Now, they might be really nicely painted. That could certainly be. But chances are they're going to flub the sports pretty hard. Or at least that's the belief. Not always the case. There are people who run some pretty hard lists and still are excellent people who just are amazing at working with their opponent, being nice and being friendly and explaining everything. And so you smile as they're punching your teeth in. I've met people like that. And that's great. That's a great game. What I want to talk about with soft scores is the following. And it's slightly different than how we talked about it last time. So here's my questions. Here's what I want to lay out, because this has been floating around a lot. So question the first. I talked about tournaments some time back, and people and my true and strong belief that everybody should go to a tournament, whether it's a local thing or some kind of GT. Especially, this is maybe more addressing Age of Sigmar players. That's where my experience is. And I know from my experience in AOS, I have not been to a bad tournament. And I go to 4 tournaments at least a year, and I've had, I think, in the past, 3 years, 1 bad game at a tournament. All good people. Adepticon, NashCon, all the holy events, whatever. These are stuff I go to, but I'm sure that I know from talk, games like Midwest Meltdown, which happened recently, run by Domus, and so on and so forth. These are great, great tournaments run by very engaged, positive people who do their best to foster a positive environment. So even if you're not, and there's a lot of people there who don't take first and just go there to play and have a good time. It's a firm belief of mine. That's not what this video is about. If you're one of those people who goes to the tournaments, and a tournament were to be much more heavily weighted towards soft scores, like assume there's still a best overall or something like that, or maybe there's a best general type of prize that just values battle points, whatever, something like that. But the overall scoring of what constitutes best overall is way more weighted towards hobby and sports than it is fighting. And there's maybe there's a lot more awards that reward painting or sportsmanship or stuff like that than there are battle awards. Do you still go to that tournament? Right? If you're a regular tournament goer. Question the second. If you're a person who hasn't gone to tournaments, one of the most common pushbacks I hear is, I don't know, I'm just going to call it a variation on fear. And I don't mean that in any insulting way. Okay? But it's a variation on fear that they're going to run into a whack player, have a bad play experience, etc. And some of those are informed fears, by the way, because they've had that experience in the past. And I'm not going to doubt anyone's experience. If you had a bad experience in the past, that's a shame. I don't know what, like, that is unfortunate. And it can happen. I'm not going to sit here and tell you it can't. Like I said, I had one super bad game in that whole time. It was pretty bad. But again, I also had, I don't know, 4 tournaments times 5 games, 20 a year, so 19 a year, 20. So I had 59 good games. Seems worth it. But if the soft scores would be more heavily weighted, and if the understanding of the tournament was that it was more narrative or more fun-based or more whatever, however you want to frame that, so it's not ultra competitive. If that were the framing of the tournament, if the TO was very open about it, I'm heavily weighting things like soft scores, and we're going to have a big painting competition, and we're really going to reward sports, and that's what most of the prizes are going to be about. And there's going to be a lot of narrative elements that happen in there. Things are going to be unpredictable. There'll be a lot of story. You'll be encouraged to sort of collaborate with people on various story elements that are happening. If that were to be the type of tournament, would that motivate you to give it a try? If you're someone who's operating from a position right now, if you don't want to go to the, let's call it tournament classic, because you don't like the atmosphere or the way it's structured or the focus on battle or however it's either in reality or perceived, it doesn't matter. If that's your sort of position, would that change it? That's what I want to know. So, that's the topic this week. I really look forward to discussion on this one. By the way, I think the right answer, for my personal opinion, is I want to see lots of different kinds of tournaments. I don't want to see just one. I want to see some that are pretty straight, match play, 2K, hard-edged scenarios out of the book, using all the rules, just like bring your best list, let's have a punch-up. I want to see tournaments like that. I think those are fun. But I also want to see the opposite end of the spectrum, like the things I'm talking about. I want to see things like Raw. Right? I want to see those types of events that are very heavily weighted towards strong narrative. Or maybe weighted towards sports and fun lists. Fun lists, whatever the heck that means. I assume it means less competitive lists, goofy lists, narrative lists, whatever. Different things happening. I think the best tournament scene is one where we grow the player base large enough. I think it creates a virtuous cycle. You want to have, you start these tournaments, they probably start small, but hopefully it attracts more players to try. It increases their engagement, they tell their friends to come along. And the scene grows and grows and grows, and more of those tournaments can be supported of all kinds. That's my hope. I admittedly don't know that's the case. I don't know if that's true or not. But I hope that's how it works. So, there you go. That's a topic this week. Look forward to some discussion. Let's keep that sports vote high down there, by the way. But as always, I appreciate you watching. We'll see you next time.